The next stage was to remove the final layer of the backing paper. So to do this, we used a process involving enzymes. Enzymes are quite traditionally used in paper conservation for removing adhesive or releasing adhesive layers. And with the knowledge of the material that was used, so the adhesive that was used in the previous repair, we could quite easily determine which enzyme would be most appropriate for the release. So it's a starch-based adhesive that was used. You would use an amylase enzyme to break down the starch molecules. Testing had showed that this method was successful and that it could be done using relatively low moisture if we used a prefabricated enzyme impregnated poultice, which is available on the market. It was designed by, it's called the Albertina compress. It's designed by conservators and conservation research scientists, so it's been quite extensively tested, and the results have been published and has been in use for a number of years in conservation practice. So we were happy with the process. And we managed to activate the enzymes using, again, very low moisture in the same controlled method that we used with the humidification of the blotter to remove the upper layer. We could control the amount of moisture that was put into the enzyme poultice, again, to ensure that no more moisture than was absolutely necessary for this part of the treatment was used. So the poultice itself was humidified. After humidification, it was applied to the document and left for a period of time. And then once the enzymes had had time to begin to break down the adhesive layer, we could then remove the poultice and start to peel away the backing paper. So the process was successful to varying degrees. At each point of the treatment process, we stop and consider the results, determine if we can keep moving forward with the method, if it's successful, or if there's risks that we hadn't identified presenting themselves. With one of the 3 folios, there was also a layer of silk, sort of like a fine silk mesh present between the backing paper and the object. And on this folio, the technique worked very well. The whole backing, the silk and everything peeled away. On the other 2 folios, it didn't allow for safe removal of the entire backing paper from the adhesive layer or from the back of the object. So instead, we managed, using the same process, to remove enough of the backing paper so that only a very, very thin matrix of fibres was left sitting on the surface that were transparent enough that we could still see the back of the document and carry out further analysis without removing any more. So on the other 2 folios, we stopped at that point without trying to remove any more because we decided the risk would be too high to continue. The other slight setback we had was that it was very time consuming. Using a very low moisture method meant that the entire backing couldn't be taken off in one sitting. It had to be done in small sections. And as soon as you had peeled away a very small amount of the backing paper and the carrier with the enzymes would dry and you'd have to start again. So it was very time consuming, but a very gentle process that allowed us to safely carry out this technique.